Hey everyone, my name is Mark Lewis and welcome to the first ever Patchwork Challenge monthly review YouTube video. There's your snappy title right there. I'm at Girdle Nest right now, which is where I should be. Pretty soon you'll see us all in something that looks a lot more like a work meeting than anything else. Until then, let's just have a wee look around here. So there you have it, that's the patch, complete with dog walkers and golfers and all the rest of it. Not many birds today. It's been a long stay in grey plover, which is technically a bit of hashtag patch gold, I guess. That's been the highlight today. Although the highlight will soon be the caramel donut that I go and eat in the cafe there. Any bird that's passing through on your way to Shetland or whatever, go to the cafe, have a caramel donut. It's going to be better than the glotfinch you find. Anyway, I'm going to go into the future now and meet everyone else in the video, and I'll see you there. Cheerio. Hello everyone, welcome to the inaugural Patchwork Challenge video score thing. That was me just then talking to you from Girdle Nest. I apologise for the rather soft focus on some of the birds. I had some Vaseline left on my camera from another project, let's call it that. So without further ado, let's crack on with the Patchwork Challenge score review. But first, before we start talking about the numbers, let's just have a little chat about who we are. First up, because I'm oldest, my name is Mark, I live in Aberdeen, and my patch is Girdle Nest. I am the second hairiest member of the Patchwork Challenge management team. Are we a management team? Can we call ourselves that? Are we managing? I don't feel like I'm managing tonight because it's taken us 20 minutes to get this far. But anyway, I'm going to stop waffling now. And next up, we've got James.
Oh, hi. Hello. I'm James Spencer. I patch Barmston, which is on the east coast of Yorkshire. I'm a very mediocre birder, and I don't really know why I'm here. Apparently, I'm good at doing admin.
Apparently. We've yet to see any evidence of that. And next up, we've got Pete.
I'm Pete Williams. I live in Lockton, which is between Pickering and Whitby. Been doing Patchwork Challenge since 2013 across a number of inland north patches, but now turned to the dark side, and I'm patching Kettlnest to Sands End.
Nice. And then finally, someone who doesn't put their picture in their Twitter profile, so I've had to swipe one from somewhere else. It's Ryan.
Hi, I'm Ryan Irvin. I am this year patching St Buryan in southwest Cornwall. Before that, I was in East Norfolk patching at Emsby. So try and stay as coastal as possible.
Always the best way. And we've got a special guest today.
Oh, yeah.
All the way from Texel, that famous birding and rarity island. We're very glad to be joined by Vincent Stork. Hello, Vincent. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. Well, my name is Vincent Stork. I've been living here on the island for about 18 years now, so I'm not born and raised here, but more than happy to be stranded here for the rest of my life. And I really took up local birding as soon as I was on the island. So what's the point of leaving the island for, let's say, a buff-bellied pipit or something else on the other side of the country? I just stick to the garden, to the local patch, maybe to the wider area for the local big year. So I think I'm really like a local birder for almost 18 years now.
So you were already a patch birder then, and that's why you really like this idea of joining the Patchwork Challenge.
I think maybe around 10 years or even further back, there was this thing on Facebook where I was on at the time. It was called Foot It. Maybe you can recall it. And that was the first time I was hooked on competing each other. And my oldest son, who is now 20, he's also a really keen birder, and they have this small group of friends who also bird together. And sometimes I can bird with them, or they come with me. And we also did this kind of island competition thing. So it's really nice. And last year there was the local big year challenge on Twitter, and I launched it here in the Netherlands as well. So there's some birders who are really enjoying this as well in the far reaches of the Netherlands. So that's nice to see. Yeah.
Well, we're really, really happy that it's spread beyond the UK and Ireland. We were really thrilled when you expressed an interest. But so you're sort of deeply embedded in birding on Texel now.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you for a little highlight from Texel. But before I ask you that, if you could choose to move to any other patch anywhere in the world, where would you move to?
Oh, that would be a hard one. I really like visible migration. I've been to Falsterbo and spots like that. So that would be really something. Or in the Netherlands, you have the spring migration hotspot of Breskens. Somewhere living there and have these streams of birds over your head, that would be really cool. Sometimes when the wind is good, I get them over my house as well, but you never know. But actually, when I'm really thinking about it, I don't want to necessarily go anywhere else than where I'm at right now.
So you're happy at home, where you sometimes get streams of birds flying around.
Yeah.
What's the best thing you've had from your own house?
From my own house, I've been living here for 4 years, and before that, I've been living for 10 years in the north of the Netherlands, and that was a really good spot. I've had a yard list of, I think, somewhere around 220 or 230 species. But life goes on, and divorce came, and I moved, and now I'm here. So, but it's really good because I get really cool species. Like one day when the first fall season of COVID and lockdowns came, I was here working in my garden end of September, and we had like a pellet harrier and rough-legged buzzard, and I think 4 different yellow-browed warblers, all from the garden during the day with my older son. And I think the best species, or the least expected, was when on the 2nd of June, 2 years ago, I'm also really a moth enthusiastic, so I was looking into my moth trap, and I heard this rattle call, and I thought, oh, was it a reed warbler? It sounded a little bit stiff, and then when I was back inside, there was a great reed warbler starting to sing at the back of my house, which is I'm not in a marshy area. It's a really good species for tassel, so that's really nice one. And I think based on the plumage, it was probably also the Zarudny eastern taxon of that species. So that was nice. Yeah.
That's amazing. I don't want to hear any more about that because it's just going to make me jealous now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move on. We're going to start having a look at the mini leagues, some of the scores from January. So what I recommend that people do, if anyone is watching this, is pour yourself a drink. We're going to try and rattle through these as quickly as possible, so it's not like the football results. And we're over to James for the first session of mini leagues. James, what we haven't discussed is that when you've finished talking about a particular league, you'll just have to give me a sign and I'll press the button to move on through the spreadsheets, okay?
I think I can manage that.
I hope so. Can you put some of your organisational flair into action?
I can try my very best. So here we go. We start. Our first mini league is Coastal East England, and it's the 10K. So we've separated out the 10K leagues. It's made for quite a lot of pages, but hopefully we don't bore you too much. Now, as you can see, James Brown's at the top at Hopton. Now, is that Suffolk? Anyone know? Yeah, Ryan's nodding. You can unmute yourself, Ryan.
No, it's North Suffolk.
Yeah,
in fact, Hopton's actually Norfolk.
Oh, is he crossing the border there? But he's on 110 speeds, 128 points, and he's the only one that's posted any highlights. So he's had Waxwing, which it's been an okay Waxwing year, but not as good as we've predicted at the front end. So it's been a few. But Owen Bowman in Lincolnshire there, Saltfleet Beef, Thedlethorpe Dunes, so that's halfway up the Lincolnshire coast. He's also doing pretty well. He's also over 100 points, but we haven't really got any more highlights there. So I guess we'll move on to the next one. And this is one of the big leagues. Loads of people in Coastal East England. Mark Golly at Cly is heading it up. He's on a monster 158 points, and his highlight is Grey Partridge. Okay, that must be Patch Gold. Tim Hodge at Horsey. Tim, who has won a previous edition, I believe, is in second on 134. But what else have we got in the highlights column there? We've got Casps, Ice and Gulls, Standard Winter Fair. Dartford Warbler for James Brown. Sorry, I'm just scanning through this. We're all seeing this pretty much for the first time now, he says, after spending hours processing it. And there's another white winger for Mark Andrews down at Kilnsey, down in 14th place. And yeah, then we move into the second. This is the best page, obviously, because me and Pete are on it.
Absolutely.
So Ben Lewis has got Black Threat Diver, which is quite nice on the East Coast. They're not that common in Norfolk. I managed a nice Great Northern Diver. A couple more white wingers there. Glaucus Gull, Ice and Gull, but nothing mega so far on the East Coast. And I think we're probably expecting a few more decent birds. And I know there's been a funny goose around North Norfolk that's probably made it into February, so we'll not worry about that.
It'd be rude of me, by the way, not to point out I was one place ahead of you as well. It'd be rude of me not to point that out.
Yeah, I was kind. I paid no heed to that. Absolutely none. As I said at the beginning, I'm a middling to poor birder. So then we move over to Coastal Island. Now, unfortunately, we haven't got quite as many takers in the Emerald Isle this year as we have in previous editions. Hopefully, we build on this. But Daniel, you're winning, and I think you're pretty much a shoe-in for the year. But that's a good start on 78 points for January.
He's
So
also losing at the same time.
Well, yeah, it's how you frame it, though, Mark, isn't it?
Mm.
And then up in, is it Nibester? Does anyone
Nibster?
know how you say?
I'd say Nibster.
Nibster in Nibster. It's a battle for the Coastal Scotland 10k league between Rob Hughes and Nina O'Hanlon. And I haven't actually filtered that right, so Rob is winning. Apologies. So Rob, yeah, and in Coastal Scotland proper, I don't know if you want to do a bit of commentary on this, Mark, seeing as this is your home league.
Okay, yeah, I'll say something about it. It's nice to see so many people involved in Coastal Scotland, which, it always was a popular mini league. What's not nice to see is so many people who I know way ahead of me in the table. So I'm pretty disappointed in myself. I think that Chris Rogers' White Wing Scooter is a massive highlight for that league. It's not a find, obviously. It's the long-staying bird, but it's still quite a spectacular birds to have on your patch list. But well done to everyone else. Colin Davison is quite a long way ahead of everyone else at Scoffle. Andrew Hewell, who's just recently moved to North Berwick, he's got a pretty respectable score there, 93 points. Some fella called Andrew at Girdleness is way ahead of me, who's also doing Girdleness. And then well done to everyone else. And now I'm going to stop.
Sorry, I put you on the spot there. We moved down. Sorry, what was that?
I said it's all right.
That's all right then. We've moved down south, and again another really popular 10k league. Bob Ford at Weymouth is heading up on 113 points. Although the highlights for this league are definitely thin. I mean, when we've got basically Plastic Fantastic as Kev Rylands highlight with Egyptian Goose, and then Amy Robjohn. I mean, Amy, come on, that red leg partridge. I will give you Goldeneye, but that's anyway. 107 points for Kev, 100 points for Amy. That's a really good start, and it's hopefully a nice competitive league. This one for the year. Just move on. And I knew this was coming because I actually omitted the Coastal South League when I first put this together, and well, Ryan wasn't best happy, to be fair. But yeah, really good start. You know, we always know this is going to be dead competitive. And the ancestry, whilst Joe Stockwell is leading the way with 137 points, really, we all want to be Steve Waite. We all want an Izzy Wheat here, an Eastern Yellow Wag, a couple of Mankey Egret, Startford Warblers, and all sorts of good bits and pieces on our patch in January. So, you know, that's a fantastic start to the year. Bob Ford's smaller patch makes the top 3 on 105 points. And Amy Robjohns, who is very much a stalwart of Patchwork Challenge. I think she was involved in was it the first edition she was in? But she was certainly involved in the early editions.
Yeah,
and
from the beginning.
Yeah, found one of the very best birds we've had on Patchwork Challenge in that glorious Caspian Stone chat, the male one. I mean, I just belting bird. She's had a couple of glossy ibis on patch. Down Matt Rona, who I work with, found a very nice black brant on Farlington Marshes and actually got the Grand Tour on a -5 day when I went down to Southampton the other day, and it's just a nice patch just out of Portsmouth. So he's started pretty nicely. And then we've got a hooded crow down at Teignmouth for Kev Rylands. Oh, can we go back a second?
All right.
I've just missed something. And I've missed Gavin Haig's Leech's Petrol. So there's bonus points for Gavin Haig there. Down at West Bay, which is in the middle of Lyme Bay on that Dorset Devon border, I think. So another good find. Okay, we can go back again.
Ready for Wales?
Ready for Wales. Ready. I'm trying to rattle through these. So I hope that's all right. So Coastal Wales and Pete Howlett has found ringneck duck, which we know is also the same ringneck duck that was found by Amy Schwartz, who's doing the 10k league. obviously, if we've got any of these leagues wrong for you guys, there is half a chance people corrupted our spreadsheet. So if we put you in the wrong league, don't shout at us. Just send us a nice message. Anyway, back to the league. And Peter's started at Cardiff Bay really nicely. He's got 93 points, and he's heading that up. He's also had sort of good birds for his patch in Pintail, Widgeon, and Tree Creeper. And then down in the Mumbles, Alan Seago's had a slightly slower start to the year, but he's got a med goal. Matt Bower, who I work with, who's in third. Sorry, Alex Jones. I don't know what you found, but I know Matt Bower has found a couple of decent ducks in the last day, so hopefully he will have a decent update for us in February. So this is the 10K League, and there we go. Amy Schwartz's ringneck duck. Dave Astins has made a cracking start again. Another 100-pointer, 85 species. He's on the GAN to Dale Airfield. I can't say I know the patch if I'm brutal, but anyone give us any clues as to the location?
Down in Pembrokeshire, isn't it? I think.
Is it Pembrokeshire?
It's on the coast in Wales, I think.
If I've got that wrong, I apologise. But I think it's down in Pembrokeshire.
Well,
I think I've been there, in fact.
Well,
Pete, you are our Welsh correspondent.
Wrong,
so...
It's a shocker. Because I wasn't there at all, so God knows where I was if it's not. But
okay.
Pretty sure it's Pembrokeshire.
Right, let's keep going. Let's rattle through.
Okay. Well, that's you, James. That was, for a first go off the bat, that was pretty impressive. I would like to apologise to Chris Roger, who did ask me to move his patch to the SGN mini league, and I said I would do it, and then I completely forgot to do it. So I'll try and remember to do that tomorrow, Chris. Sorry about that. But anyway, on to some of the best finds. We've heard about some of them already. We're going to have a look at some of the some photos from people. So we've had mention already from James just now of Peter Howlett's ringneck duck in Wales, and of course we know it's the same bird as Amy Schwartz found. Congratulations, Amy, by the way, for being the first person to ever look at a female ringneck duck and saying "for." I think not even male ringneck ducks look at female ringneck ducks and think that. So well done. What else have we got? Yeah, James has mentioned this already. An incredible month for the Axe Estuary with this Izzy Wheatear. I think that was a hangover from the year before, but still a brilliant bird to get on your patch. And then a few days later, an Eastern Yellow Wagtail. I think this one's been sound recorded as well, so this is a legit one. And yeah, as you say in your message, Steve, there's clearly only one way to go from here, downhill. But you know, even if you finish the year with Izzy Wheatear and Eastern Yellow Wagtail, then that's going to take some beating. Over the channel, we've got a little bunting that's hung around since just after Christmas. That's another PWC find for this year. What else have we got? And possibly the big one, Bruce Taylor finding a harlequin on Barra. I mean, harlequins are incredible. They've seriously devalued themselves in my book in recent years. The Aberdeen bird was so available that now everyone's seen harlequin, but I should imagine that finding one is just the most incredible rush. And obviously there's a few more finds that people haven't photographed or tweeted about, so here's a few of them. Lesser Scorp is a great bird, deserves a mention. Long-billed Dowitcher, Burton Mere, Black Brant that James mentioned earlier on. I think Stone Curlew, wintering on the Isles of Scilly, is a great find. Lots of people mentioning Buick Swans, not including Ryan though, because Ryan thinks that they shouldn't earn 3 points, they should only be 2-pointers. Chris's White-winged Scoter at Musselburgh, and the badly spelled Caspian gull, which several people reported as a highlight. I know they're not rare, but I live in Scotland where they're pretty monstrously rare, so just indulge me. Now, we have to choose a best find for the month. I've inserted a photograph here, so I've taken a punt. So I'm just going to put the next slide up, but if you disagree with what I've chosen for best find of the month, then do say so. For me, it's a clear winner, the harlequin on Barra. Any arguments there?
None whatsoever.
I was expecting 7.
Sorry?
I was expecting Seren.
You expect us to... Well,
your own.
Herd only, Seren. Is that the one?
yeah. I mean, Ryan, have you managed to eliminate Canary?
Yes.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. I mean, it's still just a Seren. It's still just a Seren, so you can go shove it as far as I'm concerned. Okay, let's move on. Okay. Into the mini leagues again. We'll try and whiz through these again. Time to pour yourselves another beer. And I think this time Pete is going to talk us through the next set of mini leagues. Are you ready to go, Pete?
I am. I shall try and get through as swiftly and as well as James did earlier. So next, move on.
Could you do it as well as James, but in half the time?
I can have a go. But probably not. He was quite quick.
Brilliant. Here we go.
So we're starting off on the coastal West England. So we've got 5 patches in here. Interestingly, the top 2 are having a titanic battle because they're both Leeso in the North Wirral. And only 1 point between them. Interestingly, on Twitter, Sean and Pierre actually tipped off Sean about a barnacle goose on patch. So he might be regretting that now, given it's one point between the two. But good to see the sharing. Jane Turner in 3rd, so another stalwart of Patchwork Challenge for many years at Hoylake. And Shoveler and Puffin she has there, both of which aren't annual. And in fact, the Shoveler even attracted capital letters on Twitter. So clearly a bit of patch gold there. And then Stephen Dunstan, Blackpool North Shore, managed to get a velvet scoter and black-throated diver, both decent birds there. And move on. So this is the Estuarine League for the 10k patches. So Irene Boston at Snesham area is 100 species and 112 points. So that's a great total and quite a way ahead of 2nd and 3rd with Adam and Gordon behind, but it's early days. Gordon on the 7 has had a guillemot at Splat. I love to say that. Great name for a place. Hopefully not the guillemot being Splat, but nice and upriver. So good record. And then Jonathan Dodds at the bottom. Nice to see a bit of spring. We'll all be looking forward to Turns coming back, but he's had one on the 4th of January. So this is the Estuarine League, a busy league, lots and lots of people in this one for the 3-kilometre league. And Paul Bowman, another stalwart of the competition at Sevenside, with a nice Leech's petrel. And he's also got Buick Swan. We talked about Buick Swans earlier, and actually it's a feature through all of the ones that I'm going to go through. A lot of patches have had Buick Swans. Brilliant birds, Ryan. Brilliant birds. So that's the Estuarine League. We've got him at the top, doing really well with that Leech's petrel on the 4th. And Buick Swans he's actually got there, but he actually had at least 20 and possibly as many as 40 going by. So really good numbers too. Martin at Topsham, another one who's been in the competition for many years. So he's had a good month as well, also topped 100 species with Barnard, Water Pipit and Black Red Start. And then Stuart Derbyshire over in Lancashire, also doing really well for January. Other things worthy of note in there, long-billed Dorsetshire, Burton Mere. So another one, we've had a couple of those this month. I think there was one at Cly as well, isn't there, a long stayer. And then Water Pivots and Scorp there too. So he's had a really good month, and a side chiff at Brantham at the Stour Estuary. And a nice great northern diver for James Astley. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm pressing the button, but nothing's happening. Let me just try that. Okay.
He obviously loves Estuarine.
Yeah.
And again on here, another Buick at Paul, and then finally at the bottom, slow start for Stephen Dunstan at Skippole, but a nice great egret there in Lancashire. Inland North, so this is the 10-kilometre version of Inland North. The 3 kilometres is an absolute beast, as it always is. It was always the league with loads and loads of people in it and very competitive. In the 10k league, we've got Conor Fraser at Longtown up top, and me in 2nd, which I think is probably testament to the fact there's not that many people in the 10k league. Otherwise, that really wouldn't be the case, as we'll see in the next league. But I've put it in there because all my dog walks don't fit into 3k, so I've stuck a 10k league in for that reason. You've got to be birding wherever you walk, haven't you?
Could you ever do anything? Could you ever do anything and not be birding, Pete?
No, it's a permanent thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how gutting would it be if you're a kilometre outside your 3 kilometres while you're dog walking?
Yeah.
So had to be included. And Paul Whitehouse at Stanley Ferry Flash has got a nice little egret there for his patch. So this is the big inland north of 3 kilometre patches, and Duncan Byatt Wheldrake Ings. We've seen some really familiar names here. He's certainly one of them. It's got 95 species and 107 points for the year, and a nice redhead smew there and a female scorp. And then he's got a nice gull roost there, and that's proved fruitful with Caspian yellow-legged, and it's had a med gull there too, I believe. Mark Langston at Oldmoor and Andy Firth at Sandbach making up the top 3. And in terms of other birds seen during the month, we've got willow-tits and jack snipe, both at Potterick Carr and Elton Reservoir. Willow-tit becoming more and more sought out after all the time. And John Law's had a nice raven at Dearne Valley. Others, we've got marsh harrier, nice wintering chiff-chaff again, a little bit of spring coming up soon, and some people have got that through the winter. Next. And then me at the top. I'm just going to look at this one and pretend that this is the first one.
I did
top in the league for me. So
I did note that I was on the first page there. Just to.
We can't go back, James. I'm afraid we can't go back.
Oh, look.
No, it's gone.
We'll call it 1-1. It's going to be a competitive year, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, down the bottom. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, mid-table mediocrity is where I'm aiming for. So in here just highlights a little grebe at Pontefract Park, a nice record for that location with Gavnor. So on to inland Scotland. So the top 3 here, Chris Pendlebury, another familiar name to anybody who's been in Patchwork Challenge for a while with both of his patches on his 10-kilometre patches, both with the same score as well. So hopefully he's not duplicated his list on both of them. But nice coincidental species and points, same score for both of those. And I love the fact that Luke Wake had a fantastic coot. You can't beat a coot for patch gold. It's the proper thing. And it's the first one he's had at lot 11 in about 4.5 years, I believe. So inland Scotland, so this is the 3-kilometre league. So nice Hawfinch and Goss from the house, always nice to see from the house records at the top there. For Chris Pendlebury in first, and then Simon Ritchie in second with a hen harrier, had a belting male hen harrier. Some lovely pictures of that. That's a cracking record up there at lot 11. And then Alex Ash, who's got tree sparrow, and I think that's the first one he'd had there in about 4 years. He's got a lovely picture of 2 of them that dropped in for the day. In terms of other sightings in there, I love Dan Brown's very Scottish feeling patch. You can't mistake which league that's in, with a nice golden eagle, white-tailed eagle, black grouse, and a goss. So started off well at Crathy and some lovely specialities in there. And then I also love Lee Hesp's. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Month 1, early days.
Yeah,
there's a long way to go.
Certainly is.
But you finished, Pete. That was great. Thank you very much. And now we're on to the Court of Appeal. Now, what we're going to do with this is that, we've tried to produce a spreadsheet of scores that is as sort of applicable across the UK as possible. But there's always going to be some incidences where we've got it wrong, or we cut, the scores just aren't really appropriate for the bird that you've seen. I think the best example of this is lesser spotted woodpecker. It didn't occur on a Patchwork Challenge patch, but when the first Scottish record occurred in Shetland a few years ago, if that had been on a Patchwork Challenge patch, that would have got 2 points. Obviously, it's a first record for Scotland. It deserves a lot more than that. So the Court of Appeal is where you can bring records where you think that you have been, I was going to say unfairly treated. I don't think that's the right way to put it. But if you think your birds deserve a little bit more, you can bring them here to us at the Court of Appeal. We'll discuss them on here. What I would say is, when you fill the score sheet out and you put things in the Court of Appeal column, please give us a little bit of detail. You're probably more likely to get a bonus if you give us that little bit more detail. But anyway, we've got 4 to talk through here. Let's have a chat about them all. First of all, Kittiwake, Inland North England Mini League. I will lead on this one, and I will say that I think that it just doesn't quite make the grade for a bonus, unfortunately. Anyone else got any thoughts on that?
I think I agree with that. So go on, mate.
I was just going to ask, how far inland was it? Or is that not the question to ask?
I think if you start measuring how far, it might be get us into.
I'll tell you what, Ryan. It's not the question to ask me, because I've got no idea how far inland it was. I think it was far enough inland for the patch to be registered inland. So,
yeah, it was in the Inland North League, but I'm not sure where.
Yeah, I think it's a great record.
Yeah, for me, I think seabirds generally, this is exactly what we're talking about. I think seabird records really, really want to give you bonus points. But the commonest seabird you're going to get inland is a kittiwake, quite often in a gull roost, quite often at this time of year. It's a sort of 2.5 pointer to me. I don't think it gets bonus points for me. But then are we going to be putting these up on the Twitter page to get the wider view to see if we award them, or are we just going to be judge, jury, and executioner?
Yeah, we're going to be judge, jury, and executioner. But I think there'll be times when we disagree, and we can put that out to the Twitter audience on those occasions.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with this. That kittiwake just doesn't quite make it, especially in if it's on a water body inland. I think if you found it in the middle of the field somewhere, maybe. But I'm with James. It's a 2.5.
So am I. Yeah, I think if you look at the other things that are 2 pointers, just generally in terms of inland sites, I don't think this one quite makes the grade. There's other seabirds, like James said, scarcer than a kittiwake inland that would certainly be better merit, I think, at the Court of Appeal. So I think it's a solid 2 pointer. It's a great bird, and I'd be very happy to find one at my inland pit patch, but I don't think it quite makes the grade for a bonus.
Thanks, Pete. That's a lovely summary. So the vibe I'm getting is hat tip, nice bird. I'm sorry, no bonus. Okay, on to the next one. Why is that not working? There we go. Self-found, which I've included just for you, Ryan. Self-found Siberian chiffchaff in Inland South England League. Now, I mean, I don't think there's a better bird than the Siberian chiffchaff, to be honest. And I sort of strongly advocated for Siberian chiffchaffs getting bonus points in the original version of Patchwork Challenge. But then we sort of realised that they're just a bit crap. They're no better than yellow-browed warblers. So we reduced the offer for Siberian chiffchaff. So my instinct is to stick with the 2 points that I believe it's worth, but I will happily hear opinions from others.
I think Vincent's got an opinion.
Yeah,
go for it, Vincent.
Well, I think time has learned us a lot about Siberian chiffchaff, and I know of some really very good research on ringed chiffchaffs in the region of The Hague, and there was a big surprise that a lot of them proved to be based on DNA. They all took samples that proved to be a Siberian chiffchaff. So even especially in winter and late fall, it's not necessarily really rare or really scarce. And I think, well, on my patch there has only been one, and I saw and heard it I think 2 years ago. So I would be really happy, but maybe not for bonus points.
Can I come in on that as well? Having found multiple Siberian chiffchaffs in southern England, I think they're far too common. If I can find them, anyone can find them. So, and I think Ryan's probably got 10 on his patch at the moment.
Well, yeah. So what I'd say is not on my proper patch at the moment, but I'm staying slightly outside while we do up the house, and just walking around where I am now. There's probably about 20 chiffchaffs, and at least 2 of them are Siberian chiffchaffs. That's the 2 I've heard. There probably is more. So they're great birds, and every time I hear one, I do actually enjoy it. Don't tell Mark, but I just don't quite think it's worth more than a yellow brown.
Okay, I think we're all in agreement there. I mean, Sib chiffchaffs have devalued themselves by revealing how common they are.
And would we like to take into account the time of year, like for instance, a singing Siberian chiffchaff in May would qualify for points or bonus points, or is it maybe it gets a little bit too complicated?
I mean, I think context is really, really important, and it's a good question. yes, I think we would encourage people to submit that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak for the other guys. We would discuss it for sure. And I think that a singing bird in May would have a stronger chance than a wintering bird somewhere in the south of England, I think. So yeah, it's a really good point. If we dismiss a kittiwake, or if we dismiss is a strong word. If we decide not to award extra bonus points from a kittiwake or a southbound Siberian chipchap in the south of England, it doesn't mean that it's game over for those. Context is very, very important. So please do continue to put your highlights into the Court of Appeal if you think that they need some more points.
I think.
Okay, Vincent. Sorry.
Sorry, just one last thing about the singing birds. A local birder here has told me that he finds them easier to find in spring when they're singing.
Okay, then it's off the table again.
Yeah.
Well, let's not discourage anyone from submitting anything. But while you're on, Vincent, while you're very present here, we've got a couple from you.
Yeah.
So, pale-bellied Brent goose. Give us a bit of context.
Well, the context would be that I was looking for more consistency on on certain families, like the Brent geese. So black Brent would qualify for 3 points, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And apart from the question whether pale-bellied Brent goose would go for 2 or 3 points in the Low Countries, it's definitely a valid species or a valid taxon as well as black Brent. So I was just wondering why black Brent is on the table and pale-bellied not. I know that it's a common bird in parts of the UK and Ireland, but then it would qualify for 1 point.
Well, that's exactly why it's not on the table as a subspecies, because we haven't given bonus points for all of the subspecies, and we've given black Brant bonus points because it's so rare compared to all the others. But I think it's a conversation worth having. If it's genuinely rare in the Low Countries, then maybe it does deserve some points. So how many records are we talking about?
Yeah, I would like to. I would have to look it up, but it depends on the severity of the winter weather in Denmark. Sometimes we have small influxes or even bigger influxes with groups of tens of pale-bellied Brent goose. But in a normal year like this year, for the scale of Texel, I think we have just as many black Brents now on the island, and maybe more compared to pale-bellied. So it should be somewhere 2, maybe 3 points. That's my hunch. And I have to admit that the Dutch, we have had a Dutch Committee of Systematics. They are also always way ahead of any committee anywhere else. So we like to split everything, and maybe it's a little bit too far, but for the Low Countries, it's a valid species. So that's also part of the situation here.
Okay. Really interesting. Anyone else have any thoughts on this? I know what my thoughts are, but I'll let someone else have a go first.
Well, I would like to say that in Norfolk, when I was there, they were a rarity. I think there's a couple winter in the North Coast, but sea watching on the East Coast, they were less than annual. Probably, in fact, I probably saw less than 5 in 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a 2-pointer. I think it's quite a reasonable thing, because it was always enjoyable when I picked one out.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, so they're slightly commoner up in Yorkshire because we get the overshoots from Holy Island when they first arrive, and we get the odd birds in with the dark-bellied flocks. But I think obviously there's a couple of things here. There's the difference in the way it's treated taxonomically in the Netherlands. So I think generally our take was anything that's a subspecies that is relatively common just gets lobbed in with the other. So we did the same with pied and white wagtail, and again that is a similar sort of situation for you, I believe. They're treated as different species in the Netherlands as well. Yeah. So I think probably, given it's as rare in the Netherlands as black Brant, I'd probably say 3 3 in the Netherlands, but then we'd probably have to treat it as a 1 or 2 pointer in the UK and Ireland, just to kind of level the scores up.
Okay, well, my take on it was that we could put this to the Twitter. So why don't we do that? When this video goes out tomorrow, if I get my finger out and get it out tomorrow, we will tweet we'll tweet a poll and we'll ask people to vote on what they think the scores should be. But I think that we should note that we all, well, we haven't heard from Pete yet, but we all really think that perhaps the different Brent geese deserve something rather than nothing. You know, we can lead the poll a little bit. Pete, have you got anything different to say about it?
Not really. Just I think it's the differential between the two score sheets. I think within the UK, well, the British score sheet, there's probably not much change to make there. I think, you know, different parts of the country, different between dark and pale bellied. As James said, you can get them in Yorkshire. It probably just qualifies as a 1 or a 2, but I don't think we necessarily want to change the score sheet. But I think on the Low Countries one, we probably want to consider that, because I think there is a differential in the rarity. And I think that's where we start to split them out, is when actually there's a difference between the two in terms of scarcity. And I think it probably warrants a 3 as well, given that it's very comparable to Black Brant in terms of how much it appears within that score sheet. But I think if we're doing a Twitter poll, it should be around changing it within that score sheet, probably, rather than the British one.
Is there 2 questions here then? Is there does it deserve bonus points in the Netherlands, does it deserve separate points in the UK?
Yes, it probably is 2 questions.
We could ask those 2 questions for sure.
And what if we don't think the UK, it could still just be a court of appeal thing for certain parts of the UK where they are rare.
Oh,
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that harks back to Mark's point earlier, that I think these first 2 cases are a bit generic in terms of status for the whole mini league, and we haven't got any information on the specific patches. So for Kittiwake and for Chiffchaff, for Side Chiffchaff, and I think there's just not enough there for us to sort of give it. But if you had a real, you know, a moorland site along the Pennines and you got Kittiwake on a little pool or something, that's a slightly different kettle of fish to getting it at the top of a tidal river or something like that. So I think that's really, we need to consider the sort of specifics of any given site, and we're open to any appeals.
The thing we always try to avoid is to have standardised scoring, which is inherently unfair sometimes on inland sites, but it's even for everybody. And I think this court of appeal just opens up that ability to give some specifics that maybe give it a bit more leverage to get bonus points. But I think we should not keep the standardised scoring for species as much as we can, and not start going localised scoring in different parts of the country, which makes it unfortunate in some of the species, which are certainly more rare in different patches of Britain than in others.
Yeah, strong agree, Pete. Okay, finally, one more, Vincent. You're not off the hook yet.
No.
Proper pied wagtail.
It was my question, or my appeal, was sparked by the fact that I found a nice pied wagtail, which proved to be the first one in winter on well-watched Texel. So there were no records from November, December, and January at all. And I was just, you know, from the general score sheet, I believe it was points for Flavissima and Flava, and from the same line of consistency, I couldn't make up a point not to give any more points to these taxa as well. Especially, I looked into the status of our white wagtail in the UK, and maybe it's a little bit more common than pied over here. But pied is really a species to look out for on your patch. When it's February, March, April, you couldn't make me happier than a nice group of wagtails and 2 or 3 of those black-backed beauties from your side of the pond. So for me, it would be at least 1 or 2 points, and I think probably 2, maybe not 3. 3 would be too high for the Low Countries. So my appeal would be to give it the same standing as subspecies or taxa from the yellow wagtail complex.
Okay, anyone got anything to say about that?
I think
If
it's
not,
got
I can do
merit.
it.
I think it's got merit in terms of, again, in terms of the low country status. There's a clear differential in scarcity between 1 and 2, but we've not split it in hours, so white wagtail isn't a thing in our score sheet. I think we've got rare
Yeah.
wagtails of 5, I think, for when we get anything like a forest wagtail turns up from or some such.
Or for like masked wagtail or anything like that.
Yeah. So we've got that in as a 5, but we don't have pied and white. So actually, this is an interesting one about actually whether we introduce that into the British score sheet as well.
Yeah, I think it probably
that
needs to cut both ways. I think given the, having said that, white wagtail's really quite a regular passage migrant, especially down the west coast. There's loads of them going to Iceland. They breed in Shetland.
Yeah.
They, they're annual on my patch. They're not. They're probably rarer. The reverse situation is rarer in the Low Countries. So I it's probably not entirely the same as Flava and Flavissima, but so I don't know. Is my conclusion.
Well, my take on it is that when we originally started awarding points for subspecies, it was so that rare subspecies got some sort of acknowledgement, and the excitement that you get from finding a decent subspecies or even a recognizable form like a Cumbrian skull or something like that, you got some extra points for that. As James has said, white wagtail is not rare in the UK, but pied wagtail apparently is rare in the Low Countries. So as far as I'm concerned, in the Low Countries, it can be worth some extra points. I don't think we need to be consistent across the countries where the statuses of the two forms are clearly so different.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, I'm comfortable with it being worth 2 points in the Low Countries.
I was just going to say, how rare is pied all year round? You mentioned about winter and it being the first one in the winter months. Did you bring this here because it was in the winter months and it was the first one?
No,
or just generally through the year it's got that scarcity value?
Well, it's more like a scarce overshoot passage migrant, something like that. Sometimes we have maybe on the scale of the Netherlands and Belgium, maybe a couple of mixed breeding pairs. So, but that's rare. So you would have to find them in early spring. After the first 2 weeks of April, your chances are getting slim. In fall, it's actually quite a hard species to find. And in winter, I checked it on the scale of the Netherlands. Every winter we do see some, maybe 1, 2, 3. But in general, it's a nice and for our perspective, it's a valid species. So, and I was thinking I would love to find a black-backed wagtail or something like that, of course. And but when you give it points and acknowledge the status, it's not really consistent in my point of view that you would give no points to the other taxa. But it's a matter of taste.
I think that. To me, there seems to be no clear desire not to give it points. So I think this is another one we'll put to Twitter. But I think we need to make it clear that it's based on the status in the Low Countries, and it doesn't mean that we're going to change anything for how we award points for pied wagtail in this country. Does everyone feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Totally agree.
Okay, let's move on then, because we have been here for a long time. Okay. Ryan, over to you for Mini League Session 3. And previous times I've suggested people get themselves a beer. This has taken ages, so maybe onto something a bit stronger now. Are you ready to record?
I'm hoping it's recording already.
Classic Ryan. Here we go.
Right, so we start off with Inland South in the 10-kilometre league. It's a very popular one. And there's a few people broken the 100-point mark already. Andrew Colshaw and North Creek. I have no idea where that is. Does anyone know?
It's Norfolk, isn't it?
Inland South. I would think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, is it just inland from Clyde sort of area?
Yeah, that's probably the Clyde,
same bird,
Longfield,
isn't it?
Dowitcher, yeah. that he's
I'm doing
walked-
well when I lived in Norfolk for 10 years. Didn't know that. And then we got Hugh Venables. He's in second place. And then Glenn Evans and Wivenhoe, which is in Norfolk, unless there's another one. So they're all doing well. And some of the highlights, Marriott Golford had a great white egret and scaup. And then looking down a bit further, we have Med Gulls, Firecrest, and some nice goshawk and marsh tits. Next. And then, yes, so we're now looking at the bottom of the table, and it's all nice and tight down there, but see someone had a nice patch tick of woodcock. That's Sam Goodard. And there's been a inland yellow-browed wintering in the Wheel Alfred at Hale in Cornwall. Mark Whitaker had that. That's not far from where I am at the moment. So this is Inland South, the 3 kilometre league. I see that the highlight of the whole thing has been omitted again. So the Seren in St Buryan has not been added to the table, but we won't mention that.
Fill in your
But,
spreadsheet
yeah,
properly.
Yeah, it's a nice tight league. Conor McKenzie's out on top. He's got a bit of a lead at the moment. But then after that, Hugh Venables, Andrew Colshaw, like from the previous league, and then Brian Headley onwards down. You know, they're all above 80 points. So it looks like it's going to shape up to be a very, very tight league. And it looks like I will be stranded in the mid-table. Next. So we have, actually, can you just go back one more? I just saw Patch Gold. I missed that. Tufted Duck Patch Gold from Ben Sheldon. That is the ultimate Patch Gold. So we go back. This is not the 10K league, but we won't dwell on that. But yeah, there's a few more nice highlights. Hawfinch, Cattle Egrets. Cattle Egrets. Since I've moved back down here to Cornwall, it's incredible just how they've expanded. I was living here 15 years ago when I moved away, and they were a rarity. Now, they're doing very well. So and a few other highlights: Raven, Little Owl, Crossbills. Crossbills is a pretty good one because it's not been many been around, especially down this way. So that's a nice one. All right, next league. Inland Wales. So I think Johnny Price is doing quite well in this one. He's top. No highlights, so we might just pass on and hope someone else joins him. The 3 kilometre league, and so it's Mark Hughes at Korsdiga. Anyone else would try and pronounce that? But yeah, so he's on 80 points, and he's got a pretty healthy lead at the moment from Terry and Sean. But I'm sure it will liven up soon. We need some highlights and bonus points from them for next month, hopefully. The Islands League. I might pass this over to Vincent. He'll have a bit more of an idea of what's going on since he's leading it.
I'm not really sure I am expert on the other islands, but it's nice to be in a league with Shetland, Orkney, Scilly. That's pretty good. And I'm not sure, maybe Texel is more continental than any of the other islands, so that would at least explain the lead. I have no Harlequin, so not really high on the bonus points. No really good finds myself, but did see some good leftovers. Like the Black Guillemot is here for its 3rd winter, and on show. So let's go for it. Lesser white-fronted goose is actually a very good species on Texel. I've in my time here, 18 years, we have had like 5 or 6 max, and this was a really nice one. I already saw it twice. The snow geese are a little bit sketchy, but they looked healthy, no rings, but maybe of Norwegian origin. So maybe I have to take it down. I'm not sure. I just await our own little rarity committee here on Texel. So, and the other islands, Bruce Taylor is really doing great stuff, and chameleons go only to dream of here. But it's I think when migration kicks in, this is going to be an all different kind of game.
I agree. This is going to be a very interesting league.
I mean, that's 6 excellent patches, and an ex-colleague of mine, Russell Lee, is at the bottom, but it's still an impressive total. And I like how...
Is that a real candidate he's got, or is it a fake one?
I presume it's plastic.
It's probably a fake one. Canada. I mean, I've in like 20 visits to Sandy, I've seen Canada goose twice, so it's definitely a highlight. But it's probably a British bird rather than a Canadian bird, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah. So the island's 3 kilometre is ever slightly more populated. Vincent's on top again. We've heard about his things. And it's another cracking league with Papa Westray joining us. He's had a few good birds recently, but he's been definitely looking at the wildfowl this winter so far with bean goose, potchard and scaup. All, or at least the last 2 were good birds for the island. And then you've got Kevin Kelly in Shetland. He's the other person in the broken 100 points. And then you've got some more big hitters with Isle Scilly, Scott Reed. I mean, Stone Curlew in winter. There's a pretty good start to the year. And then you've got the 2 the Barras, north and south. Didn't realise it was quite that big when I cycled round it, but obviously it needs to be in 2 patches. And he has had that rather nice duck. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be a great league. Fair Isle, Askernish. Askernish was famous for about 5 days into the very first Patchwork Challenge where the Geyer Falcons sat in their chimney. So they'll always be in the Patchwork Challenge folklore.
Absolutely. Are you ready to move on?
Yeah.
Hey,
here we go. So
yeah, we'll leave this to you, Vincent. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's really nice that we have some new contenders. Rob van Bemmelen is a good friend of mine who has lived on Texel before, and he happily joined. Now he's only in the 10K league active, but he also has a home patch in the dunes not far from his house, and he's a really sharp birder. Last year, I think he saw in this area black-headed bunting, so we're sure to hear from him later in the year. And Arnold Meijer, also a very good birder. He also did the 10K last year, and he joined me on Texel for a big day on foot. We walked 60 kilometers, really fun, nice guy, and also very, very sharp birder. So this is going to be a lot of fun. And here we have Ben with his little bunting. Ben is also, you cannot trust him 5 minutes alone with his binoculars. Really sharp birder. I think he found 2 new species for the Netherlands already, like the northern water thrush on Vlieland, or only. So he's living in Vlaardingen for a long time, and he has a patch there that's really producing the goods, like a lot of scarce and rare geese and the little bunting he found on Boxing Day. So that's nice. And we also have some birders in the more inland areas, like Maurice van Veen, Kevin Hams, Aldrich Pot. And also a nice story, maybe, if you let me, it's Aldrich. He lived in the north of the Netherlands, and there was a woman who lived nearby him, and he took her on with the local big year last year in the Netherlands, and she found a yellow-browed bunting. So that's how it goes.
Amazing. Okay, and now on to the big ones. Who wants to take on reading out the overall top 10s? Ryan, we were with you, so if you're happy to carry on, then
yeah, I can do. So this is just combining all the leagues. So these are the big hitters in the 10K. So Vincent is top. I mean, breaking 150 points in January is more than double what I normally get. So yeah, and then Bruce obviously with his Harlequin. So I think we've mentioned these. James Brown's doing well in Norfolk / Suffolk as well. He always, it's a very good patch he has there. He's got a lot of habitat, 10K from his house. And then the Dutch are back in there with Rob. So yeah, it looks like it's It's going to be a high-scoring league. I think we'll break 400 points probably again, especially once Spurn starts getting going.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah.
And the overall top 10.
Overall, for the actual 3-kilometer Patchwork Challenge, again, it's a who's who of patches, really, isn't it? Cly, Titchwell, Weymouth, Horsey, Spurn. You could almost have predicted some of these, but it's incredible scores in such small areas already. So I just keep laughing at. You laughed at Grey Partridge, but Grey Partridge in Norfolk is becoming, especially in the coast, it's becoming very, very difficult. So so I think that league is going to be. The fact the whole top 10's got over 120 points in January.
That's pretty incredible, isn't it?
It's pretty much made sure none of us four are going to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we are not troubling the top of the league.
Not a chance.
Never have, never will.
Exactly. Yeah, you wonder why we do it, really, don't you? Okay, we're going to move on. It's nearly the end. If you're watching and you're about an hour in, you'll be very pleased to hear that we're nearly at the end of this. So we like to celebrate the rarities on Patchwork Challenge, but we also like to celebrate what we call hashtag Patch Gold. Now, point of clarity, hashtag Patch Gold, that's hard to say 3 beers in. That's a common bird that's rare in your patch. It's not a rare bird that's rare everywhere else. So, lovely example. A coot, the archetypal Patch Gold. Awesome stuff, Luke Wake. That's exactly what we like to see. What else do we have? A yellowhammer on Orkney. I've had lots of visits to Orkney. I've only ever seen a yellowhammer once. So this really is truly Patch Gold.
Can we just go back one? There's a bit on that coots that I love, that third comment further down, which is brilliant. I didn't have the coots, but I had a moorhen instead with an exclamation mark.
Did you think that someone is casting aspersions over the identification? So the yellowhammer. The tree sparrow, I think someone's mentioned Alex Ash's tree sparrows already. Genuinely rare bird back in the day, but much commoner now, so absolutely Patch Gold. Mark Golly's grey partridges in Norfolk. All of what Ryan's saying, maybe not Patch Gold, maybe, an actual rarity. Usander. I don't know if you can see them in the photo there. That to me is pretty much a massive nugget of Patch Gold. And finally, does it get any more gold than green? Does that make sense? Green finches on Tyree, that is what patch birding is all about. If you can take a patch like Tyree with its many, many major rarities and get excited about a flock of green finches, then that is patch birding through and through. That's what we like to see. So please keep the patch gold coming. Someone's going to say something then.
Turned up as well. It's a fact 18 turned up as well. That's incredible.
Yeah, you don't get any bonus points for the number, but yeah, that's exactly the sort of thing we like to see. Now, we're going to wind it down now. We've had Patch Gold, but a little special mention here of Patch Gold. Patch Gold scraping the barrel goes to James. Come on, James.
I don't get very many mute swans. It was exciting. One of them was white and one of them was grey, and that was fun. And then oh, for fuck's sake! Pardon my French. Sorry, I've got all the way through. Sorry, bleep me.
Each to their own, isn't it?
I'm not moving on. I'm leaving that tweet on the screen for as long as I possibly can. Ooh, it depends on what voice you say in. Polish morph mute swan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1,009
views,
exactly
7 likes.
Yeah. That's
so that's
my
the
social media reach you see there.
That's James gets the award for scraping the barrel, but we also have January's tweet of the month, and January's tweet of the month goes to Jean Lossy, of course. Ryan, didn't you used to go on holiday to Lossiemouth all the time?
I did, yes, yeah.
So Jean Lossy is from Lossiemouth, and I was just wondering if you know her or if she's any relative.
No, but I confuse many people in Lossy, so it's nothing new.
But not just in Lossy either. I wish that I'd replied to Jean Lossy, but couldn't think of a way of doing it without being mean. So I just left it.
10 years, 10th edition or whatever we are, and we've got to rename it because we confuse the crafters. It's beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Was that you, Pete?
It wasn't, but
Oh, no.
I was just thinking there, we've had a few hashtag PWC confusions over the years.
Yeah,
Various
there's
conferences and all sorts.
Python web conference at the moment, I think, isn't it?
Python web conference. I bet they're all sitting there wishing they were taking part in the patch birding competition.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's draw this to a close. Let's have a few predictions for February. Anyone got any predictions for their patches or for any rarities that they think might turn up? I can start if people want. So my patch is Girdleness, but I've started visiting a little loch just to the south of Aberdeen called Lauriston Loch, and so far it's been crap, but I strongly believe that it's going to get a lesser scope this year, so I think that in February I'm going to have a lesser scope at Lauriston Loch. Anyone else?
I'm very much so. Okay, you go first then, Ryan. Yours will be better than mine.
Well, the problem I have is it's my first year in this patch in Cornwall, so I never quite know what's going to be unusual and what's going to be a rarity or what's actually end up going to be common. But for February, of course, it's the middle of spring here in Cornwall, so I'm going to go with something cheaper, something early, an early spring migrant.
Red Rump Swallow.
Red Rump Swallow. Go on then. I'll do Red Rump Swallow. Thank you. You've saved me.
Nice. Well, I'm going to go a little bit different because one thing I found through Patchwork Challenge, and one of the things that people said to me originally was, it gets you out in February. Why am I going birding on my patch in February? Well, I started doing this in the first year. Obviously, I wasn't part of the admin team in year one, and getting out and tramping the patch, and I found loads of littoralis rock pipits and loads of jack snipe that don't winter on the patch. They just pass through as they're buggering off back to back to Europe and back to their breeding grounds. And they just generally, I guess for most people, they just sort of slip away. So this year I'm finally going to find a water pipit in amongst all those littoralis rock pipits hopping around my reed bed at Barmston.
Nice.
Actually, I'm not, because I'm going to Australia, so I'm only going to be there for about 2 days. But
in those 2 days, though. Yeah, I've not given it much thought. I think I've got my inland North Lockton patch, which has no water whatsoever. But I think maybe a firecrest would be nice. I think at the moment there's marauding tit flocks. Maybe get something in amongst those. There's that nice red flag bluetail at Middleton and Teesdale last year. So these inland north sites can get these kind of overwinterers hanging around. So maybe something on those lines. And then my coastal patch, just something a little bit more on the sea. I think January's been really disappointing. The bays haven't really brought in too much of the sort of sea duck where I am. They're all going off to Redcar and having the holidays up there. And there's been a long-tailed duck that's just been out of scope range pretty much all month. So I think I'm just hoping to get a few more of them coming into the bays a bit at Sandsend and Runswick. And get a few more points that way.
Nice. And finally, last but of course not least, speaking through his COVID haze, Vincent, do you have any predictions?
Well, predictions, I still have to mop up some easy ones like Great Egret for the patch, but I think I stay with the winter theme, like a long-tailed duck or maybe a white-winged gull, which is not really easy here on Texel. So it would be nice to have one of those. Or maybe a Great Northern Diver, or any diver at all, because I haven't seen any. So that's going to probably be the best thing to work my way up in the top 10. Just find one of those.
Perfect, lovely stuff. Well, we've been going for well over an hour now, and thanks very much for listening. If you've made it this long, I don't know, give yourself a banana or something, because that's a pretty epic effort. Thanks very much for listening. We've enjoyed talking to you. Have a great February birding on patch and beyond if you do go beyond, and we'll see you this time next month. For now, good birding, everyone.